Okay, hello everyone. I think I'll just quickly review LA Confidential. It's from 1997. I forget the director, but it's an interesting movie. I wasn't blown away, but I thought it was pretty good. I thought I should revisit it. I think I've seen it one other time. It's good. I understood it a lot better now. I think my favorite aspect is probably a few of the characters, like Guy Pearce, Russell Crowe, and battery's low. Great. And Kevin Spacey, but mainly those two, because I relate to both of them. In fact, even Kevin Spacey as well. Let's say, so Russell Crowe, for example, I can relate to like there's certain things that make me furious, and like for example, if you beat up women or if you pick on people weaker than you, that makes me angry. It reminds me of Batman, going out and basically not always following the law, but just basically beating up bad guys and showing them that you're not going to get away with this. And I don't care what the rules are. I'm not going to hold back. It's personal. I can relate to that. At the same time, I relate to Guy Pearce and I don't want to say goody two shoes, but he's kind of straight down the line. Like I get that as well. I think rules are important. I think it's important to have principles and not to just make your own rules. So I know that's probably a bit of a contradiction, but that's what I like about it. It explores the two different ways. The plot itself is kind of interesting. It is a bit intricate. I think part of what I like is that it's not just it's basic steps that leads to this is what we're doing. It's kind of a bit roundabout. It's I don't know, a bit Hitchcockian in terms of like MacGuffins or red herrings or something. There's parts that's like that actually ends up. This is part of the story, but no, actually, that's not part of the story. Or it is part of the story, but not in the way you thought it was. So, for example, there's a shooting with shotguns at a restaurant, a little bar or something. But it's weird. It involves a police officer, and then it's pinned on three black guys. And then Guy Pearce is very clever in getting them to kind of overhear each other, attack each other, and then it gets them to basically admit. But of course, and then one of them mentions a girl, and it's like, who's that? And then, turns out there was a girl in an apartment that I think they were raping, and then she mentions how the timing of when they left or something, she somehow has information that they couldn't have committed the murders at the bar. So they did something awful. They were raping this girl who was tied up, which is just incredibly disturbing. But they didn't do the murders at this bar, and then they end up getting killed. It's kind of complicated. It sounds quite fanciful, but I suppose there might be this kind of intrigue might have happened. I think some of it is based on real gangsters and real corruption and things at the time. And it's interesting how I guess the media covers things, and have these photo opportunities, or you have people working with each other in the media and in the police, and like that's kind of what Kevin Spacey does. And again, even that I can relate to. Like, even though I like to follow rules, sometimes I think, what is the harm if there's mutual benefit and you're kind of getting bad guys if you bend the rules a bit, or if you go, and you only live once, like you got to have a bit of fun. But so it's interesting. I relate to a lot of the characters, just not so much the bad guys. I think Kim Basinger is interesting. I forget who she's meant to look like. Is it Lana Turner or something? I looked up the lady though, and she does look like this curly hair sort of style. But yeah, I don't know if I fully understood her character. It is kind of weird. I guess what does she even do? She kind of just sleeps with people for money. I guess a prostitute, but also what else? It feels like there's more to it. But yeah, there's kind of interesting love triangles. I wasn't completely sure what was going on with her, but I think there were. I can't remember specifically, but I think there were a few parts where the characters did things, and I thought I didn't know that was completely logical. I really hate when people assume things and then they kind of act on it, especially if they're angry and like attack someone else. Like, get the information first. Take a breath, communicate, get on the same page. And it's just, it feels like sometimes there's conflicts that don't need to happen. And also I think some of it is just because the story is kind of complex. And of course, some of the characters are meant to be flawed or conflicted. But I guess what's interesting, I feel like I might watch it again at some point. Like, it's an interesting enough story and complicated enough that I might rewatch it. But that's a good sign. It means that the characters of the story is interesting enough that you're interested in understanding it better. Yeah, I don't have much else to say. I think Russell Crowe and Guy Pearce weren't particularly famous at the time, so that's kind of cool that they had like a two Aussie. Well, I think they're both kind of indirectly Aussie. I think Russell Crowe was born in New Zealand. Guy Pearce, I'm not 100% sure. He might have been born in the UK, but then grew up in Australia. It's funny. If you're in Australia for a while, if you're successful, then Australia will adopt you and say, "Yep, you're an Australian," you know. But if anyone that does anything bad, if you've even visited another country just for part of your life, you're not Australian. You're from that other place. Yeah, we don't. I think a lot of people do that. They want credit for good things and disown anything else. Yeah. So I don't love the movie. I wasn't. It wasn't incredible in my opinion. I don't think it's quite as good as some other gangster movies like some Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, like the Godfather movies. But it's still pretty good, pretty interesting. Some interesting questions about morals and about danger, like corruption. It implies, and I get the impression this often happens, that there is levels of corruption going up pretty high, and questions of to what degree are you willing to break the rules, and can you sometimes the most moral thing to do is to break the rules, and who are you willing to compromise or work with people that you dislike in some ways in order to fight something bigger, and then even are you willing to compromise with the it's an interesting thing. Like I guess maybe an analogy would be when you capture some criminals, and if one of them admits to certain things, it gives you more information. Do you let them off the hook a bit? Do you reduce their sentence because they've helped you get the bigger ones? And I think you should. I think that makes sense. But it's an interesting moral dilemma. Anyway, I think I'll leave it there. I can't remember all that much else. It's a good movie overall. Okay. Thank you for watching. Bye.